Hey guys, I'm Simon, product designer and owner of Backland Expedition Gear. Today I'm installing a G.O.A.T series winch bumper and I want to show you how it's done. In line with the center of the Mercedes badge here, you can feel the ridge. Just follow along and trace it, and that's going to be the center of the bumper cover. Hey, I'm interrupting this video just because we have some updates for you. We've been installing these bumpers for a couple of years now. Now we are at the end of 2024 and we have learned a few things along the way. We're also installing this bumper now on the all-wheel drive platform. Some slight differences that you will notice in the video, and it's only because we want your installation to be easy. This is what you have to cut and remove from the bumper cover to install your cradle. To show a couple of things that we have updated from our first video, we are cutting all the way to the back of the bumpers here. So we have, this is open. The reason why we did this is because we noticed that it's really easy to access these bolt holes from the side as you're inserting just an extension, and then be able to reach with your nut on the inside. It saves you a little bit of time, and by leaving this section here is a little bit too stiff, and that's easier with that section removed, and it still keeps the bumper just as strong as it used to be. For you installers, I suggest you keep this with you. It'll make the perfect template, very easy to slide on top of your next installation, and then trace and cut your bumper. The winch cradle cutout is much smaller than the shell, so don't be nervous about this part of the install. Here in green, you can see the size of the shell. On the face of the bumper cover, measure from the center line to the right and to the left. From this body line, measure down 1.5 inches. From the same body line, measure down 10.5 inches, and that's going to end up on this lower body line. For this install, we kept roughly 6 inches of the bottom section to connect the two sides. You can choose to cut the middle open. If that's the case, on the bottom, make a mark from the center 18 inches to the right and to the left. Then, connect your vertical lines to the lower marks. For cutting out the grill, you want to be cutting like this, and just before the ridge line, you do a straight line, and you want to stay away from your temperature sensor. So we're going to go back just before. If your van is equipped with parking sensors, you're going to want to disconnect them from behind the bumper cover, and that's an important step because you don't want to cut those wires. Your parking sensors and parking sensor wires are out of the way. Make sure you don't lose your silicone connector. A few years ago, I was crossing a river and the current took out half of my bumper cover. I don't want this to happen. That's the reason why we created the G.O.A.T bumper designed for river crossing. To do the cutout, you can use a grinder with a thin zip disc, or I prefer to use this air-powered Sawzall. Now it's time to remove the radar and then disconnect from here. Trim the top here. So you can choose to keep this middle part on the bumper. It's totally fine. Really important is that we keep this hole, the rivet hole that you have here, because we're going to need it in the future. 13mm socket, we're going to undo these bolts here and remove the metal bumper. Okay. Some hoses. We need to make a line flush with the bottom of the opening here, and this is where we're going to cut. Put a piece of scrap here to protect those hoses. Using an 18mm gear wrench, I can access this bolt that's on the frame here, and we're going to take it off. And same thing on the other side. If you guys are familiar with my videos, you might have noticed I like to use this stuff here, some sort of wax, grease mixed together. It's very similar to what Mercedes is using all over the bottom of the van. And I'm going to go ahead and spray that right here just to prevent corrosion. You can see here that we have cut the back of the head of the winch so that we can have the wires going straight onto the passenger side. The all-wheel drive platform has an extra radiator at the front, which makes the winch a little bit tighter, but this is not a problem because this cut can easily be done with a grinder or a little saw or something like that. And then I've also put a couple zip ties just to keep those wires away from the radiator. And now we're going to mount the winch in the cradle onto the van. And we're going to wait till it's bolted to the van before we tighten these bolts super tight. So this is the update that we did to our cradle to accommodate for this new radiator on the all-wheel drive van. The fit is perfect. I'm reusing the bolt that we took out. Securely tie the cradle to the frame past the crumple zone. So I'm going to leave these bolts just snug, because it's the bolt that we're adding to the bottom that's going to set the height of the cradle. Eyeball the location of the hole that's the bottom of the cradle. Use a hole saw and drill a hole so we can access it. With a 3/8 drill bit and drill a hole into the frame. Now we have this nut that's been welded into a wrench, so we're going to insert it into that opening right here. Find the hole that we just drilled. Now we're going to use a 17mm and tighten that bolt up. Pay attention to that recovery point. It is 1 inch thick, it is machined, and it's welded all through the cradle, right into this faceplate, and then it's bolted at the top to the frame, and at the bottom, most importantly, 2 big bolts to the frame. This is the ground cable that I fed through the grill, because later we're going to bolt it into our ground location. And at the bottom here, we have the positive for the winch motor, and that's going to go to the starter underneath the van. Another great feature is that if you have to service or replace your winch, you won't have to remove the entire bumper cover, as you can remove the shell only to get to your winch. From behind the bumper cover, we're going to use these 2 carriage bolts and fit them through the shell into the cradle. Gonna have to push the bumper up. From the inside here, I'm gonna reach those carriage bolts. Now there's a little bit of up and down adjustment on the bumper, so just to make sure everything is nice and square, you want to check the gap between the recovery point and the shell here. Make sure it's even on both sides, and you can also check with the bumper line. This should line up perfectly with it. This is the radar, and this is our aluminum radar box. Take the radar, wrap around this super long zip tie, and tie it just like that. And move this away from the edge, and you're going to see why in a few seconds. This is the radar with a zip tie on. This is where the laser reads the road, and we're going to clip that at the back of our radar box. So I have a vise here that we're going to use with a rag to make sure we don't scratch the powder coated paint. The Bosch sticker going up. I'm going to insert this into that. And the reason why we're using a zip tie here is just to prevent from rattling. There's a little bit of play between the radar and the radar box, so the zip tie is going to take that play. So you're trying to line up the top pin into that little hole, and we'll see if we can get it to clip in place. Why an aluminum box? Because we live in Canada, we have extreme cold weather, and plastic doesn't do good in that kind of weather. Go ahead and reconnect the radar. This is your parking sensor holder. We're gonna go ahead, peel this off, grab that parking sensor from inside here, clip it in like this, center your parking sensor right in the middle of the hole, press it in real hard, and voila. Just to be sure everything lines up perfectly, I'm gonna go ahead and drill a hole into this, just like that. The good part is that we're almost done. Remember at the beginning I said one time I was crossing a river and half of my bumper cover got ripped off my van, broke all the plastic clips? When we designed this bumper, we wanted to make sure this would never happen again. So we're gonna be using the stainless steel hardware, put the large fender washer on the back, fit the hole into the Mercedes factory hole, and thread all that stuff together. All right, so let me show you this awesome trick. So you see the circle here on your fender liner. I'm just outside of that circle. I'm going to drill a little hole. And I'm going to line up the fender liner, the bumper cover, and our gold bumper, all three together before I'm putting the nut in the washer back here. And that's going to give you this much clearance for your tire up front, all that for free. Now that we're done with their gold bumper installation, we think it's a great time to put on a skid plate too. That's going to complete the protection kit. We found that most of our customers are putting lights on their bumper. We wanted the bar to be high so you can protect those expensive lights. And the light mounting bracket is welded on the bar, so you don't have to spend extra money on mounting brackets.